everyone, and welcome back to the Nordic Sound Channel. As always, I am your host, Jameson Foster, and today we have a very familiar and lovely face with us, and that is Jonas Lorentzen of Nebala. Jonas, how you doing, man?
Hey Jameson, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to see you again.
Yeah,
It's
good to
been a
see you
while.
too. I
Been a
mean,
minute.
it's funny. It has been a while, but it feels like it was just yesterday in some ways. Like,
In some ways, yeah.
and that was sort of, we're going to talk about this more later on, but maybe it's just because the latest live concert video of Nebala just made me feel like it was August again.
Right.
Made it feel like it was just yesterday.
Yeah.
And I have to say, when I was watching it, you actually can very clearly see my big shining bald head right right in the front of the stage left, and I was like, oh Jesus Christ.
Nice. Nice. I haven't even checked that out yet. I'm gonna look for you next time.
Yeah,
Next
if you
time I see
just at the very beginning, look at the bottom left, and you will see the shining light just bouncing off of the skull.
you. Like the moon. Yeah, nice.
Yes, exactly. I
Nice,
was like,
nice,
oh, I
nice.
wonder how hard it's going to be to pick me out. Oh, never mind, it's not hard at all. All right, cool, man. So what have you guys been up to before we get into talking about the live video and then potentially what you guys have in store for us in the future of Nabala? It's been a few months, even though it feels like yesterday. What have you been up to?
Well, I mean, actually, like, so right after the Mid Gospel concert,
Mhm.
I actually went straight into a consultancy thing with the food stuff up in the mountain.
Oh, cool.
Uh, and it wasn't like it wasn't the best gig, let's just say, but it was the
Mhm.
gig I had committed to. So I had to do it. And after a month of doing that, it was just a month project. But after like a month of doing that, or a month and a half, or whatever it was, I just I kind of burned out. Like
Mhm.
I didn't really have time to land after the Midgard's Blood thing, because it was almost like just a few days, and then I was off to the mountains. So I didn't really have time to land. Didn't have time to process things. I was just working. My back was starting to act up. I had like this old back injury from a motorcycle injury
Oh man.
in India many years ago. So that flared up, and then so when I came back from that, I was completely smashed. I was like for like a good couple of weeks, I was kind of like lying flat.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and Yeah, I just realized that my body and my mind and everything was just like and like so Nena and Milana, my ex-wife and daughter,
Mhm.
had gone to India, and I was supposed to join them there. And I was only supposed to join for a few months,
Mhm.
and then we were supposed to go back or figure things out. It's a long story,
Mhm.
but I ended up just staying. Now I've been here for almost 6 months in India,
Oh, cool. Yeah, just up in a different set of mountains.
just in a different set of mountains. Yeah, no, I've been a little bit around. I've been down to Sri Lanka as well for 2 months surfing
Mhm.
and
Oh,
just
cool.
trying to. Yeah, I've just been trying to sort of gather my head around like what's the next step going to be, and all
Mhm.
these kind of things. And I've been healing my back. I've been doing yoga like privately with the friend of mine who's a
Mhm.
yogi up here in the mountains, and just trying to stretch the old spinal cord out. And
I love that it's this has been occurring to me more and more. Maybe it's because Alyssa's birthday is tomorrow, or maybe it's because my birthday is in a month, and I'm just like thinking about age and everything. Like all of a sudden, I'm at an age where my friends have back problems,
yes.
and it's just like I don't know how to feel about that. Like literally, I was just driving a friend of mine home tonight, and we passed a I don't know if these are in Europe, but they're like really popular in the States right now. These big trampoline houses where it's just a big room full of trampolines. And I
Really?
jokingly said to him, I was like, hey man, have you ever gone in there? That looks like fun. And he said, I took my 4-year-old to a birthday party there and I did 2 bounces and my back gave out. I was sitting there like, no,
Exactly.
don't tell me about back problems. I'm not ready.
I'm not ready. Yeah, no, dude. Like, I mean, I have actually been suffering from this back problem since my late 20s.
Yeah.
So it's not an age thing. I literally crashed on a motorcycle, you know. So
Oh, Jesus Christ, man.
it's a little bit cooler than just, oh, I just slowly got stiff, you know. And then I jumped on a fucking trampoline and, you know, like I fucked myself up. It's a
At a child's birthday party.
exactly. No, I almost murdered a woman, missed her by an inch and drove into a ditch, into a fucking tree. So like, so like my back was just like, got
Jesus
like that kind of
Christ.
thing. Like,
God, I don't even want to think
but
about that.
I was
I
really lucky. I was really lucky, actually. I mean,
Yeah.
first of all, I could have killed her, like, and
Mhm.
it was 100% her fault, like 100%. Like she was fucking, I don't know what was she was on. She was probably stoned or something.
Yeah.
Because, you know, okay, I'll tell you the story
Yeah,
now.
okay, please do.
Okay,
I'm at the
okay,
edge of my
so
seat.
like, so you know, I'm driving on a motorcycle. I'm not driving very fast. It's a
Mhm.
sort of kind of normal road, and 35, 40 kilometers
Mhm.
per hour, something like that. Not even nothing extreme.
Mhm.
And then, you know, in India, the thing is you honk to make people notice that you're coming.
Mhm.
That's the way we do it down here. And so honked, and she saw me. So imagine she's looking at me, and I see that she's seeing me, and then she fucking turns around, and just keeps going.
Oh no.
And I have like a split second to do like that, and I go out into the ditch, and I try to get back again. And already there, it's already like I try to get back, but the ditch is too high, so the motorcycle sort of bangs and then goes straight into like a tree, and I just fall forward like that.
Ragdoll. Oh my God, man. Well, I'm glad you're okay.
I'm glad I managed to hold on because I'd fallen off. It would have been even more fucked. Like so. So and my feet were like torn up, and I was on my way back to deliver the motorcycle back because I had a flight. So I keep driving, you know, I'm in adrenaline, whatever, you know, I keep driving. I get to the motorcycle place. The motorcycle's banged up. I had to pay them thousands of rupees, like 20,000 rupees, which is again, it's $250. It's not
Mhm.
like, you know, like it's ending my life, but
Yeah.
still, I had to do it. And then I got a tuk-tuk back. And then in the tuk-tuk, I started realizing, fuck, I've hurt myself really badly because I can't sit in any way. And I'm just like, like, ah. And I come back, and Nana and Alana are waiting for me. And then I come out, I walk like a fucking penguin, like, and they're like, what the fuck happened? Like, you just gone for like an hour.
So
Ah.
so you are right. A little cooler than a trampoline injury. Uh, I do.
Yes.
I know that feeling when like the adrenaline wears off and then you like move a certain way and you're like,
Yeah.
this might be a permanent problem.
I might be in trouble
I
here.
might be in trouble. Yeah, man. I mean, that reminds me of I know we are way off track already. This is what
Yeah.
happens, but I love it. Like whenever Alyssa refuses to pick either me or Matthias up from this very specific road that is between like college student housing and campus
Yeah.
because she's like, it's just the worst wildlife crossing if you treat college students like wildlife. Because just like deer, just like squirrels, like, they'll wander out, they'll get blinded by the headlights and just freeze, or they'll be like squirrels. Well, they're just like sprint real fast across the road. And there was one day she was like, I'm not fucking doing this anymore. So yeah, we proposed for wildlife crossing signs right up on that road, but
Right, right.
all right.
Yeah, no, it's nerve-wracking, and motorcycles are just to all you kids out there, they're very fun. They're a lot of fun, but be fucking careful, okay? It's
We're starting off with a beautiful moral. That's right, kids. Listen to Jonas.
yeah,
Let's try and bring this back to music, at least in some
yeah,
capacity.
yeah.
While you have been in India, and while you have you been doing sort of like I kind of know the answer to this. I'm just setting you up for it. What have you been up to in India that's sort of like related to music, if anything at all?
Well, I mean, um, in some sense, like in terms of like actual playing and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, not that much. I mean, I've I've jammed with people and so on the road and all that kind
Mhm.
of stuff that we did. I had a beautiful session up in Parvati. I actually thought about you because I was in the valley 7 hours away from here. where I am right now, and there we were in this beautiful guest house with a beautiful forest with these massive trees. They're not exactly redwoods, but I call them like half redwoods because they're like huge, fuck
Yeah.
off, like 1,000 years old and that kind of thing. But anyway, so there were some Belgian dudes there. They were all deadheads. So we were playing tons of Grateful Dead all of a sudden, which I never really got into it, but
Yep.
you know, Pretty Peggy-O and you
Mhm.
know all that stuff, which was lovely. Like because I've always loved bluegrass
Mhm.
and you know Americana folk and
Yep.
all that kind of stuff, but I never got into it. But it was
Mhm.
really fun because they were really good. There was a mandolin player there, a guitar player, and so on. So learned a lot of things. But you know that was just for fun.
Yeah.
In terms of research for Nebala, I've actually done quite a lot down here.
Mhm.
I've been attending like rituals up here in the mountains. uh where it's like the music is a part of it again, but the music is like again just kind of setting the space, creating the space for whatever ritualistic stuff is going to go on. There was one that was extremely fascinating, which was a ritual of the 9 goddesses, Navaratri.
Okay.
And so there's like two guys, like imagine like two carrying sticks like that,
Mhm.
and then the goddesses are like in between them, one in the
Okay.
front, one in the back. The goddesses are in between, and then these beautifully adorned goddesses with 9 heads and stuff like that, and it's all. But that is one thing, and then there's people drumming, and then there's the shaman who's called the gur,
Mhm.
who is kind of like he goes into a trance and he listens to the messages from the goddesses, and he's the only one who can receive these messages, and he goes into a trance and he shouts and he screams, and it's very difficult to see what the fuck to have an
Mhm.
idea of what's going on because it seems like rituals up here compared to like church rituals have a little bit more conversational feel to it.
They've got a little more pizzazz.
Yeah. And it's just like you don't know what's going on, but it's kind of like the people know. And you know, there was all these people standing around this center where there was torches and drums and the goddesses. And then when the shaman, he's like, now the goddess is coming, and he's screaming, and then everyone runs in. But then he's like, no, 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 she's not ready yet. She's not ready. And I'm like, what? Like, she's not ready? Who's not? What are you seeing, man? What are you hearing that we're not? And and it was really intense. And my really tall friend Adam, he's even taller than I am, like almost a head taller, and blonde and really lanky. He sort of went too close to something. And then everyone started screaming and they got him out of there and everyone ran and like all these little Indians just pushing this huge fucking beacon of light away, like it was really like wow. It was really interesting. And then later on I had a chance to sit down and talk to the village elders about all these rituals and got a lot of interesting insight,
Mhm.
which I suppose in a direct musical sense doesn't inspire, but there was something about the vibes and the kind of shouting and so on that went on that I thought it could be really interesting to use in a
Mhm.
musical setting to sort of create the sound of a ritual. Like how does a ritual
Mhm.
like this kind of sound? And also just to gain a deeper knowledge of these because when you're sitting and talking to the village elders, and I talked to a Gur, not this Gur, but another Gur as well, about like how do you communicate,
Mhm.
And their answer is like sort of, but we just do it,
Yep.
you know. There's
Yeah.
no how. It's just
It's innate.
it's innate, yeah. And it's been extremely fascinating. And of course, here where I am right now, it's in Dharamshala, so I'm going back to the roots. You remember I told
Mhm.
you about the first time I heard throat singing was
Oh,
in
yeah.
a Tibetan monastery in Dharamshala. So I'm here right now, and there's been a lot of rituals going on because Lama Sopa Rinpoche was one of the Actually, he is actually one of the main reasons why Tibetan Buddhism in particular became famous around the
Okay.
world. It's kind of ironic that one of China's main reasons for pushing the Tibetans out of Tibet, or like to put pressure on Tibet, was to kill the religion, right?
Hmm.
And what they've actually done by that is spread it fucking all over the world, right?
It's crazy how that works when
Yeah.
sometimes it turns out genocide has the complete opposite effect, or cultural genocide or anything like that. It turns out that sometimes that can backfire, luckily. So
Yes,
yeah, man,
exactly.
that's wow, we're getting into geopolitics now. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah. No, but I just felt I had to mention that because it kind of dawned upon me like really strongly when I see how many Westerners also here, or people from everywhere, also
Mhm.
tons of Russians here, by the way, who
Mhm.
are searching for these kind of things, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
And
yeah,
I can tell you were like, um as you were recounting like this experience to me, I could tell that it was sort of like bringing something up for you, like that
mm,
it's still a memory that is like still not done processing, or that like even as you tell the story you're still like, oh, that's a new feeling.
yeah,
Or yeah, or a familiar feeling that I quite haven't like absorbed yet. So
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. So one of the things I'm gonna do here in terms of music is I got myself a Zoom recorder and I'm gonna go around and try to find some cool samples. There's, for instance, there's one of the, I don't know if you've seen them, but the Tibetans have these really long. It's almost like a lure,
Oh yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
but it's metal and it's really long and it
Mm-hmm.
has kind of a, it's a mix between an overtone horn and the didgeridoo. Actually, it
Okay.
has this kind of thing going on as well, and they're very powerful. And right now, there's a festival going on, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama is down in Dharamsala sucking people's tongues and stuff like
Okay.
that.
No comment.
Well, I'm saying this completely ironically. I think
Yep.
this is a total fucking bullshit show. Like, let's not go there, but
I was gonna say you're gonna get us
really
in even more
quickly,
trouble.
really quickly, this has been going on in broad daylight for ever since fucking he's been alive almost.
Yeah.
This whole way, these are rituals, these are
Mhm.
religions and traditions that y'all motherfuckers don't understand. Okay?
Yeah, yeah.
So just shut the fuck up. Because the ironic thing is that all these woke motherfuckers, they run around and all they say is like, people's cultures, you gotta understand people's cultures, leave it alone, don't touch people's cultures, you're appropriating, blah, 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 blah. And then this thing happens with the Dalai Lama, and they're all like out with the pitchforks.
Hmm.
How about you maybe just read for 10 minutes about these traditions, and then, you
Yeah.
know, like, I mean, yeah, you don't have to like it. I mean, I understand that from a Western point of view, even when I saw it first, I was like, whoa, he sucks tongues and he says, well, what? But then I was like, okay, it's happening and everyone's looking at it. It looks like it's just a normal occurrence. And well,
Yeah.
maybe it's just a normal occurrence. And in fact, it's a quite a beautiful thing. But, you know, I
Hmm.
encourage everyone to just fucking do a little bit of Google research before you freak out, all right? Like,
Dude, that's what so when I came upon like that headline for the first time, right? I looked at it and I was like, that's some interesting new information. And then I was
yeah,
like, I don't know anything even remotely around this subject, so I'm
yeah,
just gonna move on with my life. Because I don't.
exactly.
So but like it's so funny to me where, I'm actually glad you're getting on this right now, because first off, I'm still worried I'm going to get in trouble from my last interview I had with Aftonstorm, where they started
Okay.
really going to town on Brositru. And so like I'm still sitting here waiting for like when's the trouble gonna come? Because that conversation also leads into what I wanted to talk to you about, as you're talking about really being an ethnomusicologist in a way. With sort of like going around and collecting musical ideas that you'd like to employ in your own work. But there's this. I do want to talk about like this woke thing for a second, not just because
Yeah.
it's in, but because this actually does apply to music, right? Where I've talked about this before, but there are plenty of people who look at music and as musical and musical instruments as like cultural property in the same way that we look at like intellectual property. And as a matter of fact, like if my memory serves me correctly, the concept of cultural property comes from intellectual property, right? And
Okay.
so we've applied these ideas of like putting up caution tape around music traditions and cultures with just what you said, appropriation. Don't touch it. Your name isn't on that list. You can't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, how do you like, first off, have you personally gotten like any feedback, criticism, comments on like uh if I can just make it into a caricature, who gave you the right to do this type of music and play these instruments? If you have gotten any of that sort of criticism, how do you deal with it? But even if you haven't, like, what would you say to someone who might be thinking like, who
I'm
gave
almost gonna
you the
say,
right? Yeah.
I'm almost gonna say sadly no.
You're like, come on, bring it.
I mean, and that's obviously said in jest. I'm really happy that I
Yeah.
haven't had any of that. I mean, or on the other hand, maybe it's because the music isn't big enough yet. You know, you never know. Like, I mean, I don't fucking like. I mean, in terms of cultural appropriation, I think if there was someone who was going to, if I was to try to put myself in the place of someone who would, you know, be offended by something I do, maybe it would be the sarangi in Narorani. There's a
Mm-hmm.
sarangi they're playing. That's an
Mm-hmm.
Indian instrument.
Yep.
Um, there could be some of the singing styles and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. Sure, like
Yeah, there
there's
is a
other.
throat. I can't remember the specific name of it, but there is actually a throat singing that you guys do that at least ethnomusicologists like back in the 90s got really like into a lot of heated debate over like how it was being appropriated in like mainstream music and stuff like that.
Mm,
And this was way before my time, so I don't really get the zeitgeist. I don't really understand like what else, but I remember I was showing one of my professors, actually one of my recordings I took of your guys concert to show like the vast array of instruments and styles that are like at this festival in your performance. And he was like, oh, they're doing the no throat singing. And he said this in a very funny way, like, you know
nice.
yeah, he was like,
Women
oh,
no dropping,
they're
yay.
doing the no throat singing. And so like, for instance, you do a type of throat singing that at least 30 years ago in the 90s was pretty controversial. But
Right.
it's funny now, like no one seems to bat an eye. Maybe that shows that either you're right, it's not big enough, but I'd argue no one's too small for like the woke crusade.
Oh
If,
no,
if they
that's
smell
true.
blood in the
Yeah, yeah,
water, they'll
yeah.
come.
Oh, come, yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I um, I haven't even seen it with Heilung, or when I was with Heilung as well.
Mhm.
I didn't really see it. I mean, maybe there was a little bit here and there. I had an experience when I was on tour with Heilung. I got talking to a lady there who started from New York, I think, and she
Mhm.
started talking about. So there's this dude like, and he's like doing saris and like selling them for like thousands of dollars, and like he's totally culture appropriating and blah 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 blah. And I'm like, can you show me those saris? And then she showed them to me, and they were fucking beautiful saris, man. This guy knows his craft. He's
Mhm.
definitely gone to India and figured out exactly the way to make the most beautiful saris with jacquard,
Mhm.
in the inweaving stuff, and they were really beautiful. And I told her, like, listen, I can tell you from a fact, for an absolute fact, that there are no Indians unless they are mind fucking fucked by Western thinking that would have any problem with these saris. In fact, quite the opposite.
Mhm.
They would be so honored by a guy who has done the fucking work to make these beautiful, beautiful pieces, right?
Mhm.
And the best ramen, it's a complete switch, but the best ramen place
I was
in
about to
Tokyo,
say, where am I?
the best ramen place in Tokyo is, and this is known, made by an American dude.
Oh
There's an
yeah,
American guy who has the best ramen shop in all of Tokyo. Okay.
yeah.
Why? Because when he was very young, he fell in love with Japanese culture and he married two Japanese women, I think he did actually. Like the first one that went wrong and then the other one it worked. And he moved to Tokyo and he has dedicated himself so much to this craft. He's sat with the masters. He's become the best.
Mm-hmm.
That's because he's dedicated to it. So again, like if you're dedicated to something, and this comes to music as well. I mean, I'm not just willy-nilly using instruments without any care to like try to do it as best as I can, you know. And I mean, I met just a few days ago. I met a really interesting Russian lady who's got a qawwali band. So that's the Sufi singing, right?
Mm-hmm.
An all-female qawwali band, all white female qawwali band. This is something that's only been in the world of like male Sufi singers,
mm-hmm.
you know, for I don't know how many hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years,
Yep.
you know. And now all of a sudden, in this world where everything is opening up and we're seeing each other's culture, you find an all-female qawwali band, and if you think they're not like, they're fucking good. They are really good. They are
Yep.
amazing. I'll send you some videos after that.
Please do actually. Yeah,
it's so good. Like I was so impressed, and I was like, "This is so cool." And you know who showed it to me? An Indian guy who was bragging about that he knew this woman who was doing all this amazing stuff. You know, so I mean, come on, just shut the fuck up. Let's stop it. Like
another moral of the story: shut the fuck up. But like,
you know, like let's sit in a guru position and go like. All you people want to go to Nirvana, I tell you one thing, you shut the fuck up.
It is now tradition. It is now officially tradition that every time you're on this this channel, podcast, whatever, you have to do at least one Indian impersonation because you're doing the last one. So now it's just going to be tradition from now on. Because
and you know who loves you know who loves my Indian impersonation?
Who?
Indians really love it.
Yeah, it's just like Trey Parker with South Park. People get really mad at his Japanese impersonation, but he says the best audience for his Japanese impersonation is in Japan. He's just like that. They fucking love that shit. And so like again, to bring it, I gotta keep bringing it back to music again. Like we could just go for hours, but like to rein it back in, like the way that you were sort of explaining that you know the headband to me was, I know you might be, you know, too humble to like say this yourself, but that really reminded me actually of how I feel about the way that you approach music too, where you were sort of talking about if you put the time in, the respect and the passion into the craft, and you really try and be dedicated to it, it doesn't really matter, at least to you or me, it seems like that appropriation is even like in the mix, because it's like people exchanging culture with each other in a very respectful way. And to me, I've seen that you can either just put a blanket statement, no cultural appropriation, I don't want any of it to happen. And in that way, you've got to throw out your tortillas. I don't want to see any Americans making curry again. Or on the other end, it's just like gates are open, come on in. Just don't be dicks to each other, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what creates beautiful music, is when people are able to communicate. And especially in a situation like you with Nebala, you learn these new musical ideas that you wouldn't get if you were to just spend your whole life in Denmark, likely, and treat it with respect. And that's sort of, at least to me, what the important part is respect.
Absolutely, Jameson. I mean, imagine if we had, since like a long time, hundreds of years, maybe even thousands of years, imagine if we as a human race sort of had as our what should we call it? Rules of engagement.
Yeah, I like that.
We did not do cultural appropriation.
Mm-hmm.
How the fuck would we have blues? And then later rock and roll, and then later whatever that all shit turned into. How would we have that? Because I'm pretty sure that like the way the blues like arose was like the rhythmic stuff from African
Mm-hmm.
cultures mixed with the melodic stuff from
Mm-hmm.
Western
Mm-hmm.
cultures.
Yeah.
And the complexity of chord building and all that kind of stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
actually the classic thing was then molded into this more dynamic style of music.
Mm-hmm.
Thank fucking God. Classical music is amazing, but it's great that we have that other thing as well. That's a little bit more fun.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Like this is
yeah,
something
I
that
mean,
maybe I'm just like,
that's
oh yeah, please
I
go,
just
you
wanted
go.
to finish, yeah, I just wanted to finish the point. None of this would happen if we did not have appropriation, and that's why I like to say that to say something negative about cultural appropriation is completely insane because culture is appropriation by definition.
Mm-hmm.
It does not exist. Culture is not one isolated thing. It has to be moving, otherwise it's nothing.
Yep. It
Otherwise,
doesn't advance. It doesn't get new ideas. If it wasn't for cultural appropriation, Scandinavians never would have had an axe. You guys learned that from Romans, like
yeah,
a
yeah.
couple
Well,
thousand years ago.
there you go.
All those
There you
trees ain't
go.
going anywhere. You're going to be sitting there punching them for like 10 years.
Yeah, but imagine how strong we would have been.
Oh man, yeah. Like I just love that you're bringing up blues. Maybe this is just because I'm like literally in the middle of writing a paper on Appalachian music, but like literally the reason that I love Appalachian music is for the same thing that you just said about blues, right? Because you have all these people from all over the world, like literally all over the world, Africa, Italy, and everyone's there for different reasons. Some voluntarily, some not. You got Germans, you've got the Scots Irish, you have all these people suddenly having to share a home in a region, and the
Yeah,
only thing all these people have in common is that they are all poor as shit.
yeah.
And all of a sudden they have no other way to make music than to just like make it together. And that is the culture that gives us blues, rock and roll,
Mm.
jazz. I do know a jazz. One of my friends at Peabody, he said like, of course, jazz is a black art style, but I don't think that we invented the saxophone, right? Like that is what he said. Like it's literally black dance rhythms and all of that meeting a Napoleonic marching band in New Orleans. That's
That's
why
it.
this shit happens. And that's why we
Yeah.
are fortunate enough to have Louis Armstrong or
Yeah.
Miles Davis, is
Or
because
Miles
people care.
Davis,
Yeah.
or fucking, yeah. List goes on, right? Like,
If I can just like sort of like tie a bow on this appropriation conversation before we really beat it to death.
yeah,
I just want to say that's why like I really do admire musicians like yourselves, especially those in this music scene who, and especially Runo with Nordic animism, he pokes at this a lot too. Where it's almost like you guys are doing things and not even intentionally or consciously, but you, by virtue of the music that you guys are playing, you're sort of taunting or sort of like begging people to be like, come on, tell me what I'm doing wrong.
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Like if appropriation is wrong, come tell me why I'm doing it, and at least tell me that it doesn't sound fucking great, right?
It's like no, but like you're really touching on something here because like of course that's your anyone's reason for making music should never be to see how much I can piss people off.
Okay, let's cross black
They-
metal off the list.
well, no,
I'm
no,
kidding. I'm
because
giving you shit. I'm giving you shit.
no, but I mean, because we're right between a joke and reality right here, right? It's something like because because like of course I mean black people black metal and punk and all these things were all it's a kind of stick it to the man type of
Mhm.
principle that these things operate on but again all the ones that are good in this genre are doing the music for the sake of the music, right? I mean we gotta
Yeah.
that is the main thing, you're creating for the sake of creation, and if you're angry with the government or whatever, then that's what's going to come out through your music.
Mhm.
And it's just that it just so happens that in some sense you could say we're kind of lucky that we are living in this time now of all this cultural appropriation bullshit, and when woke stuff and so on, and some of it having its legitimate place and so on. But
Mhm. Yeah.
that's not what we're here to talk about today.
Right.
But anyway, the point is,
We're here to complain.
we're here to come. um, I want my goddamn pizza with chicken tikka in it, motherfucker. No, but the point is that okay. So what I was trying to say was that it's kind of lucky in a way because it is actually a tense time to create this kind of music in.
Mm-hmm.
It is a very
Yep.
tense time, and if it gets big enough, you can totally see how certain people can lose their shit over this, that, and the other. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and but I've just really decided like I that because it is such utter bullshit, this kind of mindset, and
Mm-hmm.
because it is wrong in so many ways, and I have thought about it long and hard enough to be completely sure that this is absolute bullshit. I'm just not gonna give a fuck. And so on the next
Brilliant.
Nebala album, I'm going to have a sarangi play together with a saxophone. Fuck you guys.
Do
You
it.
know? Yeah. Well, honestly, like I'm gonna do whatever I want on the next album. Like on the first album, it was very much like I was just coming out of Heilung,
Mm-hmm.
so I was very deep in that Nordic
Mm-hmm.
sauce at that time. Even
The sauce. I'm sorry, continue. That was just so fucking funny.
okay. but I was, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so that was carrying a lot into the to Nebala. And I think it will also carry on into the next album. I mean, it's not like that. That is a part of me, and I love it, and I don't want to take that away. But I think on the next album, I'm gonna go even more balls deep into appropriation. You know, like
Do it.
I'm just not gonna care at all. Like I'm gonna use any kind of instrument that feels right for the song,
Mm-hmm.
and I might even do some electronic stuff. Who knows? Like,
Oh,
Shilling.
now you're gonna be in trouble.
Oh yeah, now I'm gonna be in trouble. No, but in terms of like manipulating sounds and that
Mhm.
kind of stuff, I think we're gonna go more into that. Like Shell, Rob, and I, Rob, our percussionist, and Shell
Mhm.
Broughton, who I think many of your listeners will know already.
Oh yeah, he's
We're
everywhere. You say, oh, I'm sorry. Who did you compare him to? The something of the Rick Rubin of Norwegian music, or what, or
right,
Nordic music?
the Rick
Yeah,
Rubin. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's a good compliment
yeah.
there. Yeah, so in the end of May, we're having some rehearsals and some meetups, and we're gonna plan how we're gonna do the next album. But they're gonna become an even bigger part of the next album. Also,
Awesome. Hell yeah.
Rob being a fantastic percussionist and having all kinds of funky ideas, and so yeah, it's gonna be really interesting. And yeah, I'm not exactly sure about the recording procedure yet. That's, I guess,
Mhm.
what we're gonna find out at the end of
Yeah.
May. But we're definitely making a new album, and it's gonna come out sooner than late. Like
Cool.
it's. I think we're gonna, once we get into the studio, it's just gonna come out,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're gonna be more session like this time as well. I think we're gonna
Oh,
be
cool.
more. Yeah, I think it's gonna be more improvisational. It's gonna have a more improvisational feel to it.
I like.
It's gonna be interdimensional Nebala this time. Like,
That's cool, man. Like, I think this is sort of this is something I was thinking of. Is like, you're telling me that you've been in India for months now, right? And you're saying you're not having as much opportunity, unless I totally misunderstood you. You're not having as much opportunity to play music, and that's not really what you're there for. Like, I found that like that distance that you can create between yourself and music for a temporary amount of time is usually really good for the creative process. Like, I've found that I'm best at an instrument when I don't touch it for 3 months and then I pick it up when I feel like it. Right. And
yeah,
so, like, when you're telling me that you've just been immersing yourself in all these, different cultural aspects of living in India, I'm
yeah.
sitting here like, this is making some good marinade for what is going to happen with the next Nebala album.
It's gonna be an all different kind of sauce, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, and it's just
yeah,
like, yeah, I'm really looking forward, especially, you're saying that you want to do the session type thing, and just that's
yeah,
a whole, I love that sort of experimental approach you're taking to it, because you got to keep things interesting, not just for the listener. Sometimes people forget that the musicians are people too, and maybe you want to
yeah.
try something fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's a cool segue to like how I think how I'm in my head having that this recording process is going to be very different from the old one, because I mean it kind of was session-y when we did the first album as well, but it was mainly me coming with a lot of, like, sometimes there would be almost a whole song written, and then it was just about like figuring out how to arrange that in a way that it was good. And that was Shell's role. That was Sebastian Gainsborough's role in the very beginning, like being a ping pong man in a way. And some of it, Shell and I, there were two songs that Shell and I would say we more or less co-wrote. Alagabia, we fully co-wrote 50-50, I would say. And so on. But that happened much later in the process. And I realized, like, once I started going to Shell, and we just literally I came in with almost nothing, just maybe some lyric ideas, maybe something about what vibe this song should be in, but nothing else. And then at the end of the day, we had a song, not finished, but enough for it to, okay, the foundation is fully laid. We just have to add stuff on top and fluff it up, and it'll be fine, And so this time, what I want to do is I want to go deeper into that thing, and I want to have Rob there as well. We're gonna have a few other musicians as well that we're planning on working on, and then I want to go into the studio, and then I want to just jam for a whole day.
Man.
And then we're gonna be sitting with the terrible job afterwards of figuring out where was the song and what we did. but it's yeah.
It's funny because you said you never got into Grateful Dead. That's actually why I had trouble at first, is because like they didn't do that step of okay, where's the song? They were like, all right, cool, album.
It's 18 minutes. Yeah, this song is 18 minutes now. Fuck you guys. Yeah, I can't do it either. I have to say, like I those guys that I met up in Parvati, they were great, and it was awesome to sit and play with them. But they played some Grateful Dead for me, which I really liked for sure. I mean, Garcia is a great guitarist; he's got a lot of feeling and all that stuff, for sure. But I'm just like, sometimes I'm like, okay, now you're just tripping, dude. Like, and if I'm not tripping, I can't follow you down that path, man. Like, because I'm not on whatever you're on, man. Like.
Yeah, I mean, like, that is every Grateful Dead tune that I like. It's because I was first introduced to it as a bluegrass song. Like, there are a lot of Grateful Dead tunes, like Friend of the Devil, Rosalie McFall. There are plenty of Grateful Dead tunes that have like entered into the
Hillbilly music repertoire. That was a great song. That's a great song.
Yeah, absolutely. And like those, I hear them first as bluegrass. I'm like, oh, I really like this. And I listen to the Grateful Dead's version. I'm like, I can kind of see where the things I like are. But just like you said, I'm not on nearly enough acid for this to work for me.
Yeah, I gotta have a double dose of this shit, man. Whatever it is.
Yeah. So I just want to. So before we go into talking about the Midgard's Blot live concert video, I do want to say when to sort of like maybe embolden you to go in with that fuck it mindset when you're doing the whole on appropriation, whole on session thing. There's this beautiful exchange that happened between the composer Sibelius and Mahler, where Sibelius was having trouble keeping up with the times. He felt like he was
Norwegian, right?
Finnish.
Right.
Finnish,
okay,
yeah. So he was just getting that huge feeling of imposter syndrome that we've all felt, right? Yeah. And he was telling Mahler this, and Mahler's this fucking titan of symphonic composition.
I know.
And Mahler turns to Sibelius and goes, "Just remember that no one built a statue to a critic." And that stuck with me. Right. And so I just wanted, if I can hand that off to you,
right on,
to
Mahler,
embolden you to just sort of like do just what you want to do. Just remember, no one built a statue to a critic. Right. And I say that as a critic.
Yeah. No, I know, but but you're the good kind, bro.
Oh, you trying to fluff me up?
Yeah, I'm kidding. I hope you'll be my one good critic at least. I have one.
Hey man, I'm pretty easy.
At least you'll end up saying, at least you fucking tried.
Right, because again, I have this crazy idea that musicians are people. I don't know where I get it from. Maybe it's from my own like experiences and mistakes of choosing to be a musician myself, but you never know. But
Musicians shall also be allowed to fucking go through something which isn't maybe the most interesting in the world, right? Like, I mean, but I heard, what the fuck was this British guy, I can't remember his name right now, who was talking about this, that today, and this was back in the 50s, 60s, this has been way exacerbated since then. Like the fact that there's so much focus on the artist, like the artist like scrutinized at every moment. So like you cannot have a bad period. You cannot have make some shit and put it out. That's not allowed, because then you're only as good as your last album or your last concert or something like that. And then people forget, you know. Y'all must have forgot, kind of thing. So Roy Jones Jr. When he came back. Get the fuck out of from that. Anyways, they thought he was done. But the point is that and people like, I love it not to play it safe. I mean, I don't know why I haven't made a pop album yet and made millions. I really should have done that. Maybe I still have time. Maybe at some point I will, because it's not easy to make good pop music either, by the way.
Before you lose your hair, all right?
Yeah,
because you need to have a full head of hair when you make pop music, or else that shit's creepy. All right.
I should do it very soon before I get too many wrinkles and lose my hair. Yeah. When I still can pass off as a 35-year-old, that kind of thing. But the thing is, I always find myself not being able to do it. Whenever I sit down and try to do it, I always end up going like, we'd be so interested if there was just a breakdown here after this long soft thing, but it goes like,
I've got a bunch of questions to ask you about the video versus the performance, since I was fortunate enough to be at the actual live performance. And that is the first question I have for you is, when you're deciding to take this live performance and turn it into like an actual video where someone can just sit down at home and watch it in a way that's very removed from being in the moment, or just swept up and just how awesome it is to hear live music in general. How did you tackle like having did you have some sort of creative direction or some sort of idea in your head, like from the beginning, as to how you wanted to, with your collaborators, how you wanted to bring out that spirit through the video? Or did you just like sort of see where it went and you would just
kind of both.
Yeah.
Kind of
Okay.
both. It's a really good question. I mean, from the very beginning, one thing I knew I didn't want it to be. I didn't want it to be just alive, like just some cameras switching between some cameras, and then it's just a live thing and so on.
Yeah.
I wanted to add some extra thing to it. I didn't know exactly what that was going to be, but of course, working with Sarah, our editor, who also edited the music video, the Lathu music video, we sat down. So okay, what's the cheapest way of making this interesting and making this kind of like a story that goes through? What's the cheapest way of doing that? And we sat down and we started looking at animations. We started looking at some of the old footage from the videos and so on, and how could we move things in here? Like for instance, in Lathu, you will see that there's a snake kind of morphing into the picture, kind of going around. And that's obviously because Lathu is all about confronting your inner darkness and going into the underworld, really.
Yep.
So it makes sense to put some snake iconography. But that was kind of like things that sort of came up as we went along. Like we started with one, and then we saw how it went, and so it was both a kind of like initial idea, but what it was actually going to be was something that sort of came out in the collaboration between Sarah and I, and not that I did anything technically. She did everything, but I came with my big finger and said
you were moral support. You were moral support, which is very important.
And moral support, but also angry support. I mean, like
passionate
support. Thank you. Much better. And of course we we were then lucky enough to Andrew Self
Mhm,
jumped on Seawolf the
mhm.
Seawolf to do the color grading, which is, you know, I mean, how lucky is that? Like a fucking top-notch, amazing color grader.
Yeah,
Uh,
He's with Disney, right? Like, does he
he's with
work
the
for
whole,
Disney
yeah.
or yeah?
I think he's working with Disney, and he's working. He did the Sandman, the Netflix series, The Sandman, which was
I had no idea he was involved in that.
he did that, man. That was his fucking
Oh,
color grading.
Jesus Christ, I gotta stay up to date on this shit. I'm looking like an idiot here. No, but that's awesome. Like
Yeah,
how you're right. Like how lucky are you to have that sort of talent? Like even
yeah,
just doing the
yeah,
color grading, which is a huge,
yeah.
very important aspect of it. But
It's
like,
super important.
yeah,
Yeah, and people would know if they saw the before and after. They would really know. Like they would really see.
I know
Yeah.
that just from my dumb amateur like wildlife photography I do, where like every time I post one, I'm like, if you fuckers knew how hideous this thing was before I sat down
Before,
with this, you'd appreciate it more. So yeah, I can only imagine what it's like taking like an actual hour-long live performance in the dark and
yeah.
actually making that, pop visually.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, and he sure did, and he also didn't have exactly the color spectrum that he wanted to work with. So
Mm-hmm,
he even had a bit of challenge there.
mm-hmm,
But yeah, so yeah, just blessed to work with great people. And we just wanted to make it like a story, like so when people sat down and saw it, it would be kind of a visual story without anything super clear or anything like
mm-hmm,
that. Because obviously you also have to think about what's the movement on the stage and how do we put that into the animations and all that.
mm-hmm.
And we wanted to sort of kind of have it very ethereal and beautiful. So it starts with like oceans and stuff like that in the beginning, and then it gets really dark, and then at the end it just gets completely fucking psychedelic. Like then it
Mm-hmm.
just balls deep, Grateful Dead psychedelic bullshit at the very end, which I think Surgo Sebo and Blotha, it fits them perfectly to have that
Oh
kind
yeah.
of stuff.
I just still remember, just I can still very vividly remember just the energy with Serusibu. Like that
Yeah.
is when everyone was like, "Oh fuck, this is dirty, dude." Like that's when that was when you swept everyone off their feet, and I think that you captured that really well in the you Sarah and Andrew all captured that very well in the actual video performance because it's,
Yeah.
again, not easy to do. Which all another thing that's not easy to do that I would love to ask you about is like Nebala's music is very interesting to me in the way that it's both very naked, but also very organized at the same time.
Mhm.
Like it's very well composed, while at the same time it's pretty bare bones in the way that like you're not hiding behind a lot of special effects. You're not hiding behind a lot of noise everywhere. So if someone fucks up, it's no big deal. And this became
No.
really obvious to me while I was watching the video, especially was like, you guys are up there pretty naked with just all of the music that has a pretty intricate organization to it. So
Yeah.
if I can direct this rambling into like an actual
I
question,
mean,
right?
especially the vocalists, right? Like especially the
Yes,
vocalists. Yeah.
yes. So like, how do you approach? Because in a studio, you have complete control over everything that happens, and that's nice
Mm.
and comfortable. When you're on that stage, right? How do you guys like? Is it just a lot of rehearsal, or like how do you approach like? Because it was also such a tight performance, right? Like I know you guys can probably pick out, because that's just how musician brains work, is you can very quickly pick out where you fucked up, but no one else can.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah.
but to us commoners, right? I can watch that thing and be like, oh, that was flawless. I can't think of anything wrong. How do you go through that of like taking it from studio art into a live performance? That just seems terrifying to me.
I mean, it is fucking terrifying. I mean, you're hitting it right on the nail. I mean, that's also why we had much more vocal rehearsals than we had, band rehearsals. So like single vocal rehearsals, we did a lot of those to the music, to try to, because also, I mean, you have the added on top of what you just said there with the nakedness of the music. You have the added issue of working with in ears, and sometimes,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and you have a lot of connections to until the sound gets to in ears. You actually lose a little bit of tonality.
Mm-hmm.
Um, So the song that the music that comes into your ear is, I think it's just a tiny bit lower, right?
Mhm.
Than your, I mean, that it's really weird to explain.
Yep.
Christopher tried to explain it to me at one point in time, and I understand it, but I don't know if I can give it back the way he did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Christopher Hyland, because they've been working on this for a long time with the in-ears and having problems with tonality
Mhm.
being fucked up, you know.
Yeah.
And it's not really something you can hear when you're standing in the live thing, you know, and
Mhm.
everything you can't hear like a quarter of a quarter note type thing.
Yeah.
But when you then get it out of the mixer and everything's playing together, there's this little all the time, right? And that's actually
Oh
what
man.
that's what you're dealing with on stage.
Mhm.
It's fucking difficult.
Mhm.
That's also why when we ended up doing Blot, that's when we are the most naked at all, right? Like
Yep.
there's nothing.
Mhm.
There's just that's all that's there, and there's no note in the bass or anything like that. So in that, I had a note,
Mhm.
so I could sort of start it, but then we just did it completely naked without any backtrack or anything like that, and then we started the backing tracks and that kind of stuff right
Mhm.
after, you know,
Yep.
so that we did that best possibly that we possibly could.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, it's a lot of rehearsal. It's a lot of it's trying to see if we can figure out a way. I know that Christopher's working on it of how to fix that
Mhm.
problem with the in-ears. So
Yeah.
I'll have to write to him soon and say, hey, did you fix that?
Yeah, man, because like
I
I
can't.
yeah, because like this is especially true with like not because you unless I'm misunderstanding like your role in the whole thing, like sort of as the band leader and the guy who's
Yeah,
like sort of like the compositional process is like, you share it with a lot of people, but it's really your baby kind of, right? Or at least the
yeah,
last album was. You know it on a much more intimate level than say um the other performers on stage who might not have like spent hours in the studio perfecting the mix and all of that. And so I'm even thinking of like the backup band where it's just like that's got to be terrifying to like keep right again because you don't really have that much to hide behind. And I
no.
remember a lot of was the is her name Ilaria?
Ilaria, yeah.
Ilaria. Okay, cool. We friended on Facebook, and I was like, I think that's Nebala singer, but I don't know. But okay, cool. So Ilaria, there were a lot of times rewatching the video where I was like, she has this entrance and there are so many other ambient noises around and she's got to hold that pitch in there and come in like with no guidance, and I'm sitting there like I'm getting the shakes just thinking about that because in the studio you can be like, oh sorry, take just I missed my
Yeah, just
entrance
take it again.
whatever,
Yeah,
but live
yeah,
it's like here I go.
well, I mean, again, lucky to have someone like Ilaria
Mm-hmm.
on stage because she is fucking amazing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, she's been doing this forever. You know,
Yep.
like she is. You know, she specializes also in traditional singing techniques and so on.
Mm-hmm.
She's classically trained. She's just pro, man,
Yeah.
and my bro as well. Like my brother who
Mm-hmm.
stands next to her also is a professional choir singer. So yeah, their biggest struggle was with getting comfortable with the in-ears. You know, that
Yep.
was their biggest struggle. Like figuring out where they were in the music. That was pretty fast. They were pretty like when we had our first rehearsals. They were pretty like well,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because like we obviously used like tons of time, Shell, Rob, and I on like making proper rehearsal tracks for
Mm-hmm.
them and everything, that kind of stuff. So they had a lot of time to rehearse even before we went into the rehearsal, right? So
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, we worked on a lot of things and yeah, it's just about getting comfortable in it, right? Like
Yeah.
with this kind of music, of course, we have backing tracks and you have clicks and stuff and you have cues that are in the ears that no
Mm-hmm.
one else is hearing, right? But at the same time, I also I realized this when I was working with Highland back in the day, also that yeah, that's fine, but you can't just rely on that. You actually really have to know the song. And
Oh,
it came
you
to a
gotta
point where,
practice. Who knew?
yeah, you really fucking have to, exactly. Don't just pick the banjo up after 3 months, man. Like you gotta.
Oh, beautiful.
No, but yeah, you gotta practice, and it was to a point actually where actually today, I think I can safely say that if Highland weren't out to play a concert with the set list that I played with them,
Hmm.
maybe barring a few, one or two songs, maybe I wouldn't be able to do this, but most of those songs, I would be able
Hmm.
to go on stage with them tomorrow
Hmm.
and do the whole concert without click or guide or anything in my ear. I'd
Hmm.
literally just be able to do it because it's been so fucking hammered into my head that even today, like, Fiul turisas sansus raido kinas gibo bonyo agana digi
Oh.
saira las katuangi kano ivas manas lagos singas dagas otala. I sing half that in my fucking head.
you,
Damn you, Highland, filling my head with.
you're falling asleep, about to get a good night's sleep, and that just starts playing in your head, and you're like, no.
I say it every night as a mantra to fall
Before you
asleep.
go to bed. Oh, that is so great, dude. Yeah, because I know I was, I was actually hanging out a few weeks ago with some people who were guest warriors with Heilung for their North American tour, and they were talking about how those rehearsals were just like so rigorous because there was just
Oh
so
yeah.
much you had to do. And it's funny because they aren't musicians, and it's funny, they know who I'm hi people who I'm talking about. I know they're listening to this. But like, they aren't musicians, and so it's funny to me where I'm like, dude, yeah, that's what the musicians have to do too, like every time. Because if you go up there without preparing, you are about to just eat shit in front of a whole crowd of people, and that's not something you can ever live down.
That would really suck.
Yeah.
Uh,
Right,
yeah,
you get the willies, just thinking about it.
and it's funny with Highland, even more so than with Nebala, I think, because Nebala is more progressive than Highland is. I
Hmm.
mean, we have many more, like we have more shifts and stuff
Hmm.
like it's much more dynamic in one
Hmm.
song than there is in Highlands. And but that is not to say that doesn't mean that Highlands music is less complicated
Hmm. Yep.
because it's extremely complicated,
Hmm.
especially for the musicians because it kind of drones on for so long, like. And then there's this little change over here, like, oh, okay, after like 20 bars, we go to like 20 bars. What am I on five now? Like, I don't
Hey,
know.
guess what? That's playing bass in an orchestra, so I'm glad you understand
Oh
my
yeah,
pain. It's like, what?
absolutely.
Where is this? Is this rest 43 out of 87? I'm not entirely sure.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you have to, like, I mean, some people think maybe that we trance out entirely when we're on stage, and we do to a certain degree, but
But
you have to fucking keep it. Like, you can't just go, you never go full trance, you know? You never go
and
full trance when you're,
I
and
was
that's
thinking of that.
because you're fucked. Then you're
that
fucked. And
that was going
especially,
through my head that it's very difficult to it's actually more difficult to allow yourself to enter a trance state while also keeping the minimal amount of sentience to know where you are in the actual music. That's a
exactly.
difficult balance. It's like taking a nap right before you have a meeting or something where you're like, do I think I can wake up before this, or am I just going to completely fuck it up?
Uh, dude, I fucked up so badly with Highland once. And it is precisely because of that. And
Yeah.
I think it was in the song called Gal Galder.
Hmm.
Uh, uh, because what happened was that I just allowed myself to fucking trance out fully, right? And I was dancing so much, and I wasn't aware of my physical capacity to dance that much and keep, my conditioning not like completely wearing out,
And
right?
your back
So
starts
when it
hurting.
came no, but like when it then came to like, oh fuck, now the click is coming, then I have to come back with the vocal now. And it's that vocal that goes,
Hmm.
and that's a really long one. And then you
Yeah.
have to hold it at the end. And I went up to the microphone and I'm like, no, had no air whatsoever because I'd just been trancing out. So I had to extend for a while to catch my breath before I could come back into it. Fuck!
Now I want that as a bumper sticker. Never go full trance.
No, never go full trance. You never go full trance.
Oh man, I
That's a
love
really
that.
lovely thing. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So luckily I had those experiences. So I didn't make those kind of mistakes with Heilung. I mean, with Nebala.
Mhm.
Because yeah, even though it is my music, still, if I trance fully, I'll trance fully. I'll forget where I'm in my own music even. So yeah,
How do
with kind
you
of music,
mean?
you have to be super fucking aware all the time, and you have to actually almost be more aware than in other types of free jazz and so on, where you can just like follow on whatever you want to do. Like there maybe you can go like to a 75-80% trance maybe, but here no.
So like, how do you? This might be more of a question that's like more specifically for performers that might be interested in this. Like, do you have a trick for like I don't know if this might oversimplify it, but for like staying focused, like because I'm thinking of a very specific moment, and this is when the lights come up and you and Josh are screaming at each other. All right,
Oh yeah.
how the hell do you return to Earth after doing that to a point where you're like, okay, we are now at this point of the song? Like, do you have any methods for like staying on track or for like staying focused, or is that just you just practice and it's just something you pick up on your own?
Hmm. That's a fucking good question, man. Do I have any trick for staying focused? I mean, I think the music does that to you. I think
Okay, cool.
it forces you into that focus. I think. Um, I mean, I've done some meditation and stuff like
Mm-hmm,
that before. I've done even like 10-day courses of silence and that sort of thing.
mm-hmm,
But I find that the strongest meditation that I can possibly do is to play music.
mm-hmm.
And if I'm not meditating when I'm playing music, then I stop because then I'm
Yeah.
not doing then I'm not doing and then I don't and then it doesn't feel great.
Mm-hmm,
If I'm trying to sit and think about because the problem is usually like with the scream, for instance, that you just mentioned, that's just a full on living into it. And it's great to have Josh in front of me with his fucking bass, and just screaming his face, right? It feels amazing. Um, and I think like and I know what's happening after because I'm completely fully aware at that point. I'm
mm-hmm,
fully in the now. I'm not thinking about how my scream sounds at it. It's when you start thinking about when you're playing and you start thinking about how it is that you're sounding and you're not just enjoying how you're sounding, because that's when you're in the now. Then you're just
mm-hmm,
enjoying whatever comes out. It's just enjoyment, enjoy. And I think as long as you're in that enjoyment state, you're less likely to fuck up because you have the complete wherewithal all the time,
mm-hmm.
you know, and you also don't want to lose that enjoyment. And the way you lose that is if I went like from "Ah," to like, oh yeah, yeah.
Did they like it?
You like it? Oh shit, the song's still going on. Fuck.
No, I really
Yeah.
appreciate that, man. That I needed that advice actually. So thank you for that. Like, I don't know, that just ended up being like a really impromptu little nugget of wisdom that even I needed. So I appreciate that, man, because yeah, I feel like most musicians go through that where they spend too much time listening to themselves, and this sounds counterintuitive, but like stop just for a second, just remind yourself that you're doing something that you love and that you don't have to just be constantly shitting on yourself, even if
Yeah,
it's our instinct to do. Uh,
exactly.
just
I mean, I don't know if I told you this story before, but I had and if I did, I'll try to make it brief. I had that experience. Like I really feel that was like really initiating me into coming back into music fully. I had been in Highland for about two
mhm,
years at that time, so that was already happening. And as you maybe know, I had a huge break before getting
mhm,
back in.
mhm,
What really sort of like cemented it for me and gave me that real boost of confidence was when I was doing the Northland session
mhm,
and they called my name and I had to go in and I got stuck in the between the control room and the
mhm.
actual recording room and I was like, why the fuck are you nervous? This is what you love to do. This is everything you've ever like whole life building up to going into Air Studios and sing this fucking thing. That's your fucking house right there. This is my house. Like this is my fucking house. Like that kind of thing. It really had that kind of thing. Like then I went into that fucking smashed it
Mhm.
because I wasn't thinking about what I was going to do like in that way anymore or how they were going to react to. I just I just thought about the job I had to go in and do in
Mhm.
my house, which was a millions and $1 million studio at that time. Just at that time.
I mean, like you must be psychic or something because the last question I was going to ask you about the concert was how do you manage that stage fright, right?
Mm.
Because you're telling me like it is terrifying,
Yeah.
and I'll give you an opportunity to say more if you like, or if you say like no, it's just what I said about the hallway story. Weren't you listening? You can like if how do you manage that sort of like you're about to get on the stage and you're like holy shit, there's a whole crowd of people waiting for me. We've all rehearsed. I hope we rehearsed enough. I hope these entrances are clear enough. I hope I like
Yeah.
that runs through your head constantly as you're leading up to a performance.
Yeah.
Like, do you have anything else you do other than just like reminding yourself this is what you do? If you're not going to do this, then what the fuck are you doing? Like with anything, right? Like what?
Yeah.
How do you approach that level of I don't know if you want to call it stage fright or maybe even just like I don't know the jitters, whatever word you want to use for it. Like how do you get through that?
I mean, while you were sitting and talking, I thought about maybe a good analogy might be like a what do you call it? Like a bungee jump, right? Like you can prepare yourself all you like until you have to jump, right? But once you jumped, you're just in free fall, right? There is nothing at that point. There is nothing you can do. You can't stop the jump mid jump and go like, I don't like this, you know? And you can't stop it when you're down, you can't stop it when you're up. At some point, it will stop and it'll come to a standstill. And then you can sort of like maybe afterwards, like analyze the experience. Was this nice or was I just terrified the whole time? Or like, but you can actually stop it. And I think if you consider the live show just before you go on stage as a bungee jump, like you can't stop this machine. Now we're on and it's gotta fucking be whatever it's gonna be.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing you can do. Because if you stop it, that's gonna be super fucking lame. You can actually stop a live show, go like, I don't like it today, but I mean, you're gonna be fucking up a lot of people, like organizers and
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
like
I know that the
treat it
only
as a bungee jump. You just
the
fucking jump,
the
fucking
only
jump.
time I've ever seen that happen was unfortunately, and this is nothing on them as musicians because I just have nothing but admiration for them. But Wolves in the Throne Room, I don't know if you were watching them at Fire in the Mountains. They were playing one of their new tracks. And they got like it's the track that has a walking bass line. And that's the one where
Oh,
you can probably guess. I really dig that tune, right? And they were just getting into the walking bass line and they just stopped and they apologized. They were like, guys, we're so sorry. We really needed to start that over. And I was sitting there like, I'll forgive you guys because I fucking love you guys. But at the same
hey,
time, like, really, and again, I don't want this to come off as like me saying, oh, Wolves in the Throne Room owes me money because they took 2 minutes of my life from me. No, I love those
mm,
guys. But like, that it is unfortunate when you have to do that. And a lot of times,
yeah,
musicians think that the worst thing you can do is stop. Like, if you fuck
yeah,
up, own it, but just keep that going, or else you might lose people. But
yeah. Yeah, I think I didn't see that thing happen. I might have been away somewhere or whatever.
it was the very last night. Yep.
Yeah, no, I saw Wilson thrown
Okay.
room, but then I was standing for like 15 minutes and then I went somewhere and then I came
Oh yeah.
back again. I was like I was all over the place.
Yep. Yep.
But I didn't see that. But I mean this sounds like they handled it pretty well.
Oh yeah, because the show still killed, and luckily it was like at the
Yeah.
beginning, right? So it
It was,
wasn't like dead in the middle.
yeah, no, they were amazing. I remember that. I mean, they are amazing. But
Mhm.
but I mean, there's this one artist called Rufus Wainwright. He's actually famous for doing this kind of stuff. When he plays his solo shows, he's a pianist and a
Mhm.
singer. Like he'll have a run and then he'll be like, then he's like gay and funny. Fuck it, like and he'll be like the fucking thing always does, and then he'll make some kind of joke on it, and everyone's just fucking laughing their asses off, like. He's so cool. So the way he does it, he kind of makes it a part of his show that he fucks up.
I should try that.
That's the way. Yeah, I mean, but it's because he's so cool that you don't actually kind of mind that he fucks up. It's like almost you're waiting for him to fuck up so he says something funny. And like, so, so there's different ways of dealing with this, but at the baseline, I agree with you. Like, you need
Mhm.
to fucking, you can't stop a song. Like,
Yeah.
show must go on.
When I play sweet, you might remember that I do this, but I played Swedish dance here for a Scandinavian dance organization that is here in Boulder, and literally I love it because the leader of the dance is like this guy named Mike. Love him to death. He's like this really sweet man in like his 60s, 70s, and he's so difficult to like set off. The only way I've ever seen him like internalize anger is when someone stops in the middle of a dance because they messed up. He sits there and he's
Mm.
like, "This is the greatest sin against humanity. You have stopped in the middle of this schottish. People were in the middle of the step, and just because you hit the wrong accidental, you have ruined it."
Everybody, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, you gotta carry on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that's what I heard. I wasn't there obviously, but I heard from my sister that when Highland played Red Rocks, they had like a power cut, and they just kept playing.
I kind of remember that. I mean, I wasn't there, but I remember
They just
hearing
kept
about
playing
it.
like
Yeah,
acoustically, and people could kind of hear the drums and stuff, but and then bouncing around on the fucking on the stage. Oh God,
oh
yeah.
man, that's rough. And then yeah,
But
just
yeah,
to
show must go on, right? You gotta just
absolutely.
power through it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
then you said, your bungee metaphor, I've never been bungee jumping, but it sounds awful familiar to the same way that people talk about what they would do if they were attacked by a grizzly bear. Like people are like, oh, I would use my bear spray. Someone's like, no, man, I would use my 9 millimeter. When like in reality, when a grizzly bear starts fucking charging you, you have no plan, right? You are getting charged by a
Uh,
grizzly bear. The grizzly bear to me is the live performance. It's like that's a mama bear barreling
right.
right towards you.
And you don't know what the fuck you're gonna do when the grizzly bear attacks you. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of like that. And you have to love being attacked by a grizzly bear every time. You know.
Maybe someday I'll learn, but until then, I'm fine not being attacked by by Chris Bear. But yeah, so man, I guess like to wrap this up here, I mean, like I can't, to anyone listening, I can't recommend your video enough. The live concert, I feel like you guys did a great job like capturing the essence of being there as best as one can through a video. And on top of that, like it sounds like you've got some real cool stuff cooking up for the future of Nebala, which is great,
Yes. Yeah.
because you sort of like just shocked everyone at Midgard's Bloat in the best way possible, to the point where everyone's
Oh,
just
thank
like, give
you.
me more, like I need it, right? And so it's nice to hear that like you're working on not just new music but new ideas too. And so
Yeah, definitely. I
is there
mean,
anything else you want to say on like what you've got planned, what you got in store, or is it like a
I mean,
sort of wait and see type thing?
we're working on shows right now.
Mm-hmm.
We have two confirmed shows in September, one in Germany, one in France.
Cool.
Germany is called Festival Medieval,
Mm-hmm.
which is going to be very awesome this year. There's a lot of cool folk names that are playing this year,
Mm-hmm.
tribal folk names. Um, and then there is a small festival in France called French Festival
Okay.
at the end of September, which I could really recommend people go to as well because it's fucking free, because it's like a cultural thing.
Awesome.
It's free and it's great people behind it. So the vibes there are amazing. I was there last year with the Shell and this band Nemuar was there. Nudland was there as
Mm-hmm.
well. And we were just hanging out. We were just playing. We were just and Shell and I did like an impromptu show on the stage, like just half an hour kind of thing. He did his thing, I did my thing. And it was just a very good vibe, like so good
Awesome.
vibe. Good food, good people. Yeah. It's like what 2,000 people come there or something like that. So we are playing there, and then we are working on a few other shows as well. We're also working on making a smaller version of the show so we can play smaller venues
Cool.
and maybe do a little touring. So that's one of the things that Robin, Shell, and I are doing as well, stripping it down to the three of us and see how we can make that work live.
Oh, I know that's going to be
Can't.
great, man.
It's gonna be fun.
Oh
It's
yeah.
gonna be fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we're working on a lot of different things, and we're really excited for the next step. And I'm super happy, that the way that people are taking to the music is overwhelming, and it's very emotionally, yeah, satisfying and everything. I mean, it's incredible that, this, like, we're talking about this thing about, like, when you put your baby out there, right? Like, that's the music. Right? So I feel you were asking me if I'm the, if it's my solo project, and in a way it is a solo project, but I can't really call it a solo
Hmm.
project
Yep.
anymore. So if let's say I'm the birth giving, I'm the birthing parent, to use a woke fucking expression, of Nebala. I have, dads and uncles and the whole tribe helping to foster this kid,
It takes
right?
a village.
It takes a village. It does indeed, and so that's how I like to look at it, and we're all of us very excited
Hmm.
about future is going to bring, and yeah, yeah, man.
Cool, man. Beautiful. I mean, like, yeah, as I've said before, I mean, like, it's sometimes scary to take chances and like perform in like a music style that is usually pretty rigid in its expectations, like this, like this new
Yeah,
Nordic, whatever it is. It can be
yeah,
scary to like enter that. Not that you were completely new to it at all, but like under a new name or like to re-enter a
yeah.
space, I think is the word I'm looking for, with a different sound, taking chances and not knowing how people are going to respond to it. I cannot even imagine how emotionally overwhelming it must be to see that pay off to some degree. And that's
One thing
just,
that's
man.
finally, one thing that's finally happened is the Heilung reference. That's finally happened, and not in a
Yeah.
good way, by the way. Like,
Oh.
so like, it's finally happened with comments and stuff, like, they're being like Heilung. It's a bit on the nose, like, and and I never say anything about those comments because I'm like, yeah, that was obviously going to happen at some
Yeah.
point, like, just like Heilung has had that stigma about Radruna, and then so on and so forth,
Hmm.
back in the day. But it's fun to see how already people who are loving the music are starting to defend it when this kind of stuff happens. Hey
Dude,
man,
beautiful.
he was in Heilung, man. How can he be copying Heilung? He was in Heilung, like, how can that be, like, or they'll say, like, well, what do you mean? And then they'll say, the costumes. Oh, so now Heilung has the right, the only one who has the right to use bones, or what? Like, because I think they were saying something about Josh's bone thingy or something.
Surrender your
But it's really
bones.
fun I'm just sitting back and looking at people just like going crazy about this shit.
I, I'm always baffled by that sort of shit. But then, I always have the second guess where I'm like, Jameson, you dedicate your life to like trying to understand music as best you can. So maybe don't like, but then at the same time, it's like, I cannot imagine how someone can watch a Nabala video and be like, this is exactly like Hylung. I don't get it. I don't get it. It's just like, oh,
Oh,
what? It's acoustic with a nice rhythm. Like, what do you want? I don't know. Like, how many music styles is that? But anyway, like,
it's just funny, man. It's
yeah,
just
you'll
fun.
always you'll always get that. I've just learned that from like working in music as long as I have. Is just people get very passionate about it,
Mm.
and then sort of I've learned to maybe this is too forgiving, but just I always trust that that place is coming from a place or that feeling is coming from a place of passion, and at the very least, someone's passionate about something.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah,
that's
yeah.
not the best way to go about it, but what are you gonna do when people get into the fights they do about music?
It's yeah, it's very silly, of course. I mean, and that is not to say that there aren't bands out there that aren't authentic,
Mm-hmm.
and that are trying to ride a wave. Of course, there are bands like
That's
that.
literally what I talked to Afton Storm about. He composed a song on the spot, where he picked up a toggle harpa, and he was playing only a fifth and a minor sixth, and he started singing, "I play with Odin's balls to get to Valhalla," and it was just like he was just taking the piss out of exactly what you were talking about, right?
Yeah,
There's absolutely those like actors who are like, "Oh, dude, I can make money off of this," right?
yeah,
But that doesn't mean
yeah.
that everyone's doing that, and also people can. this is going right back, circling right back around to that appropriation thing where it doesn't even have to be appropriation. People are influenced by each other, right?
Yeah, exactly.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I mean, you think I'm gonna be 2 years in Heilung and then make my own weird ass tribal folk thing, and there's gonna be nothing that sounds
And
like just a little bit like Heilung?
leave it all at
I
the
mean,
door.
how is that even gonna be fucking possible?
Yeah, man.
And like I said, I've been like marinating in this sauce for 2 years. I mean, you don't just come out and don't, and there's no trace. I mean, that's not how. I mean, that's not how things work. You know.
Yeah, man.
So
But
yeah, people can say whatever the fuck they want. I mean, at the end of the day, Paul McCartney said that the real great musicians in this world they steal with their arms and legs.
yeah,
That's Paul McCartney. You
mm-hmm.
know, arguably one of the greatest songwriters of our time.
Oh yeah.
So,
And and just couple
how
that with
about you take this and you shove it up your butt?
so yeah, take that and
I'm
also
getting
the
petty. I'm getting petty.
oh, it's fine. You're allowed to. Everyone's allowed to be petty. It's just you take that, then you also take the reality that again, no one ever built a statue to a critic. And Jonas, I think you've got some beautiful potential here for Nebala going on into the future that I cannot wait to hear. Jonas, where can people find you if they want to follow you or if they want to follow Nebala? Where's the best place to do that?
Really go on. I mean, the YouTube handle is also Nebala Music on YouTube. So
Mhm.
I would really recommend people right now. Of course, you can go onto all the streaming services and you can jump onto the IG, which is also at Nebala Music on Instagram and check out all the stuff there. But I really recommend people to go on YouTube and check those live videos out right now
Mhm.
because we're really proud of those and it's a if you just want to like have an evening where you're just sitting and looking at some cool psychedelic and gritty animations with some cool people dancing around the stage with some
Oh
music,
yeah, and I love the
please.
way you guys. I should have mentioned this earlier. I love the way you guys layered the dancing from the music video on top of it.
Yes, on
That
top of the
was
thing, yeah.
at first I was like, ah, what is that? But then as it kept happening, I was like, oh, is
Yeah,
someone behind me? But it's as it happened, I was like, oh shit, that's the video. Like that's so crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt so great about that moment actually when Starro managed to sort of it's like I'm in the middle and I'm dancing and then they're dancing around me almost like and that's like almost like those spurs from the Ukrainian forest have come back onto the stage, that was kind of the feeling I got. So that's really cool. And yeah, so go on the YouTube, check that out right now. Really proud of those videos. So just Nebala Music on
Yep.
YouTube.
100%.
And yeah, that's really where people should find us right now.
Cool. Hell yeah, man. And then just the last little bit I want to tell you is just, from the work that I do and the people that I get to talk to, I do just want to like really emphasize the fact that you have a pretty like dedicated following of people who are just like super into specifically the Nebala style. And
Nice.
it's just like you've definitely struck a chord with people who want something familiar but something new at the same time. And really that's a balance that a lot of people like to see. So keep doing what you're doing, man. People are loving it. I'm loving it. Give me another hit of that shit as soon as you can. And
it's coming, brother.
All right,
brewing,
cool. Hell yeah.
Brewing.
And then until then, man, enjoy your time in India. And I guess I'll see you around, man. It was really great to talk to you.
You too, man.
All right,
See
cool.
ya.
Take care, man. Don't be a stranger.
I won't.
Okay, cool.